Exclusive contracted novel by Feilu Novel Network. Three Kingdoms Battle, but you gather in Liangshan. Lu Wang traveled through the end of the Han dynasty, where corrupt officials were rampant and the people were struggling to make a living. Start the construction of the plundering system, gather a group of heroes in Liangshan, act on behalf of the heavens. Eliminate violence and ensure peace. Dian Wei pulled down the drooping willows and Willows. Zhang Liao's snowy night up. Liangshan Su Shu's wisdom in choosing a birthday. Green plum cooking wine on heroes. Lu Wang smiled and said, Mengda, what do you think of the 7 sons of Liangshan? Chow Chow. In the Battle of Guandu, Yuan's army was unstoppable as they headed south, but they were blocked by Liangshan. Yuan Shao was furious. I have taken control of the Yuqing region in Hebei and merged it into 4 provinces, but why can't I have a mountain fortress? Shouchuan proclaimed himself emperor, and Yuan Shu exclaimed in amazement. How could the entire people of Liangshan in Shuibo have soldiers, exceeding 1 million? I'm taking a break. Ezhou retreated, Liu Bei sighed. Shadow of Liangshan, following my brothers for this lifetime. Dominating Jiangdong, Sun Quan is bold. I have 100,000 soldiers on the expedition, wherever I go. Zhang 800 in Liangshan. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. Starting with Shuibo Liangshan, embarking on construction and predation. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. In the late Eastern Han Dynasty, the Yellow Turban Uprising swept across the country and subsequently collapsed. In the evening, a small village in Liangshan. 100 or so mountain bandits lit torches. They are as thin as a stick, both physically and mentally exhausted. A busy day doesn't yield much. Life is not easy, adding insult to injury. The bandits sat on the ground in 2s and 3s, chatting haphazardly, waiting for the meal to be served. What's the difference between this thin rice and drinking water? The middle-aged mountain thief holding the bowl looked disgusted. Others joined the discussion. Not to mention, there's still a pungent smell. We eat less than chicken and dry more than cows. I used to eat guanyin soil with the yellow turban thief, but now I'm drinking rice water with the Liangshan ko. Sigh. Not really. Falling grass is just a matter of eating, but in the end, I still go hungry. Why is it so difficult to live a good life? This world is so damn dark. The mountain bandits became more and more angry as they spoke. The momentum is gradually increasing. Shoo. Everyone keep their voices down. The frail old bandit in the crowd secretly reminded, in times of famine, it's good not to starve to death. He pouted at the largest wooden house in the village. It's not easy to provoke the black demon that the village leader has been taking in recently. Don't be scolded for talking too much. The increasing voices of the bandits suddenly stopped. Looking into the open wooden house, the village leader is pushing cups and exchanging cups with the burly man. Don't worry, Brother Dian. Inside the wooden house, the village leader stood up with a wine cup, patted his chest, and said boldly. I, Yen Lao San, have a bit of a thin face in the territory of Liangshan. I have connections with dozens of copycats here. Brother Dian may take refuge here. Definitely not being manipulated by the government. The burly man remained silent and drank and ate meat on his own. Yen Lao San was not at all annoyed and took a step forward to approach the great Han. A flattering smile appeared on his face. Brother Dian is truly a hero of the time. To avenge the Lu family and kill Li Yong alone. That guy is an official who has served as the Fuqian Chang before, always rushing in and out. But being slaughtered by you like a chicken is truly satisfying. Subsequently, the Jian brothers were able to carry Li Yong's head and retreat from the bustling city in the pursuit of hundreds of people. Truly a martial god descended to earth. Yen Lao San raised his thumb high, speaking harder and harder. My brother came back with a message from outside. Chen Lu's side passed you on like a god. What is it called, Guji? Evil comes. The burly man remained silent, carrying half of the chicken and fiercely gnawing on it. Upon seeing this, Yiliangshan could only scratch his head and smirk. Outside the wooden house, a group of mountain bandits listened attentively. Be good, killing someone in the bustling city, being chased by hundreds of people, can you still escape unscathed? Is this still human? Shoo, hurry up and eat, don't be heard by that strong person. The mountain bandits who originally complained about the food suddenly stopped talking and drank rice soup on their own. I'll give you food and drink. You guys are still causing trouble, damn it. With a face full of anger, Yiliangshan rushed towards the crowd, rolling up his sleeves and pointing with a long knife in his hand. Which kid just started shouting? Stand up and let me see. The master of our village broke his dog leg and threw it into the Liangshan water pool to feed Wangba. Chapter 2. I will not change my name, so is Dian Wei. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The responding bandits took 2 steps back involuntarily when they saw the fierce village leader. In the past, no one led the way in causing trouble, and the consequences were all extremely tragic. Someone. Tao Laosi let out a loud roar. More than 20 confidants of the village leaders rushed out from other wooden houses. Everyone was holding weapons in their hands, slightly stronger. It's completely different from the thin and weak mountain bandits who are barehanded and have at most a wooden stick by their side. The increasing number of people around him made Tao Lao's qi extremely high. Holding his arms, he scanned the ordinary mountain bandits back and forth with a threatening gaze. In the wooden house, the big man threw away half of the chicken with only the skeleton in his hand and looked out. Glancing at Luong who was leading the trouble, he lost interest. He, who possesses his own martial arts skills, can naturally see Lu Ang's general level. It won't stir up any waves. This is the judgment given by the great Han to Luong. Are you the one who led the trouble, damn it? Yiliangshan pointed his long knife at Luong. Up. Cut him half dead and hang him on the gate of the village to show off to the public. I want to see who dares to take the lead in causing trouble in the future. 20 or so confidants waved their weapons and shouted to rush out, and the momentum instantly erupted. The mountain bandits beside Luong were extremely frightened. They eat and drink less, and their bodies are thin and weak, which cannot compare to the elite soldiers and strong generals raised by the village leader with food. Luong picked up a long stick from the ground and gestured loudly, shouting. The brave win when meeting on a narrow path. If you back down today, there will never be a day to turn over. Follow me. Such a brave performance has slightly boosted the courage of others. Inside the wooden house, the big man was attracted by Lu Ang's performance and turned around to pay new attention. The brave win when meeting on a narrow road. Their courage is commendable. Although I appreciate it slightly, I still don't see it as promising. Courage is certainly important, but fighting is not just about courage. At the beginning of the mountain bandit's turn, the wooden spear in his hand changed from a thorn to a racket. As a confidant, he naturally understood that the main focus of the village was on standing up. Don't let the kid in front of you die quickly. My face was covered in blood, hanging on the gate of the village, crying for 3 days and 3 nights, which was the best effect. Luong, who was charging forward, dodged on his side and turned sideways, smashing the mountain bandit on the spot. Follow up with a kick and knock out the fallen mountain bandit. The decisive move is still acceptable. In the wooden house, the big man rubbed his chin and appreciated it slightly. Pick up the pottery bowl and pour in water and wine, continue watching. Other mountain bandits, seeing this, let go of their contempt and dispersed to form an encirclement from all around. I'll help you. The young bandit rushed towards Luong, holding a wooden stick and standing back to back. He shouted to the crowd. If you don't work hard to overthrow this unscrupulous village leader now, you will also face retaliation in the future. Instead of ending up poorly, it's better to give it a try. Luong turned around and looked around with his spare light. It was the young man who first responded to him, with good courage but a slightly frail physique. Don't listen to his deceitful words. The village leader Yiliangshan immediately jumped and shouted. Our village leader will increase your rations in the future. Today's incident only focuses on the culprit and has nothing to do with anyone else. The leader's shout made the restless mountain bandits hesitate. I will be the village leader, open the warehouse to distribute grain, so that each of you can have enough to eat. A less loud word, but like thunder exploding. Clearly penetrate into the ears of every ordinary mountain thief. Luong stood with a stick on his shoulder, and his extremely infectious words spread. I have no choice but to become a bandit, but I am so cowardly that I can't even afford to eat. What's the use of it in this life? More than 100 mountain bandits are ashamed. Follow me, Luong, and overthrow that scumbag. He waved his wooden stick and pointed towards the village leader. I'll take you guys to grab landlords, kill dog officials, and eat your fill. I will never be bullied by anyone again in the future. Simple and clear words penetrate into the hearts of every bandit. The mountain bandits who were originally sitting on the ground watching jumped up, along with other fearless mountain bandits waving their arms and shouting loudly. Seize the landlord. Kill the dog official. Eat your fill. Never be bullied again. The shout was deafening for a moment. The mountain bandits exploded in emotions. The young mountain bandit beside Luong loudly encouraged him. Follow Brother Lu to overthrow that guy, grab the land and kill the dog official to eat their fill. Someone among the mountain bandits responded with a voice. Others spoke out one after another until they all joined the ranks of resistance. 100 or so mountain bandits were howling and the voices were bustling. Seize the landlord. Kill the dog official. Eat your fill. Never be bullied again. The shout was deafening for a moment. The mountain bandits exploded in emotions. Inside the wooden house, the big man put down his wine bowl and got up to pick up 2 short halberds. It seems that we still need to help the village leader. Let's unite as one. Let's charge together. Luong shouted loudly, holding a long stick and rushing out first. Young mountain bandits followed closely behind. The two of them turned the tables on each other. One person, one stick, instantly knocked down the confidence of 2 village leaders. Other bandits responded to the situation one after another. Those with sticks use sticks, while those without sticks use fists and feet. Instantly knocked down a trusted confidant of the village leader. Why is this happening? Yiliangshan repeatedly retreated. Those thin and weak mountain bandits were originally refugees, it's best to handle them. But how could there be such a reckless resistance today? Looking at Luong waving his stick in the crowd, Yiliangshan's eyes were filled with resentment. Damn it, kid. Luong and his 2 companions took the lead and achieved successive victories. More and more mountain bandits are joining. Although the confidants of more than 20 village leaders have better weapons, they are unable to cope with several times the number of opponents. Not long after, they were all knocked down to the ground. The ordinary mountain bandits who were bullied in the past are now trying their best to vent their grievances. Facing the fallen village leader's confidant, he relentlessly threw his fists down like rain. The mountain fortress was filled with ghosts crying and wolves howling. The dog thief is dying. The young mountain bandit next to Luong rushed forward and smashed a stick at the village leader. When the sound of weapon collision rang out, and the young bandit was bounced away by a huge force, with a wooden stick in his hand flying backwards. How could that be so? The young bandit looked in surprise at the big man blocking the village leader. Extremely sturdy. Extremely strong. The other side is like Mount Taishan, and his invisible momentum makes him breathless. Indeed, it is like the evil of ancient times. I am seeking refuge here, do not harm the Yen village leader. The burly man put his short halberd on his shoulder and said calmly. The sunlight shone on the sharp blade of the halberd, reflecting a dazzling cold light. The young bandit turned around and looked as if asking what to do. Luong bent down and picked up a large knife from the ground, dragging it forward. Brother, the burly man said first. I see you have a lot of courage and are good at driving people's hearts. If given time, great things will happen. At this moment, it's better to take someone else to join his camp. I am seeking refuge here, and I cannot let you harm the Yen village leader. The Great Han did not rely on military force to bully the weak, but instead eased negotiations. Luong disagrees. With a slash of the big knife in his hand, he asked in a deep voice, "What is your surname and who is your name? Please provide your name." The persuasion words that the big man had originally prepared were all blocked back. Since you don't want to listen to advice, no wonder he said with a furrowed brow, I won't change my name, I won't change my surname, Dian Wei. The rough roar like thunder echoed through the mountain fortress. Dian Wei's aura was full of energy. A group of mountain bandits took 2 steps back and were intimidated by Dian Wei's momentum, exclaiming in surprise. Be careful, Brother Lu, the young mountain bandit shouted as a reminder. Luong advances instead of retreating. He has activated the general skill, Blade Saint, after obtaining the big sword. Shua, a flipping knife swung from bottom to top. Dian Wei lowered his halberd to block, and their weapons collided with a clanging sound. Blade Saint trigger, accumulate 1 layer, force plus 50, instant force 100 points. Chapter 3 Dian Wei. Before the 3 swords, Ordinary Mortals, 3. You are listening at novelfull.audio. You can't. Dian Wei shook his head and looked down upon him. Such martial arts are too rare. Before he could finish speaking, he saw the big sword strike again. How could this be? Dian Wei was shocked and lost his composure. It's completely different from the teasing knife just now. In his eyes, the speed and strength of the big knife skyrocketed. Surprised, he quickly lifted his spear to defend himself. Dang! The sound of weapon collisions exploded, more than double in height, shaking the ears of everyone present. Although Dian Wei defended against Luang's attack at the last moment. But the huge collision force transmitted from the short halberd made his mouth tingle. Impossible, absolutely impossible. Looking at Luong, Dian Wei couldn't believe the sudden and huge change in the young man in front of him. He has too much confidence in his eyesight and judgment. Never made an error. But the strange things happening in front of him easily destroyed all his previous cognition. If he had just possessed such force, this young man could solve those 20 or so stronghold masters' confidants on his own. Such force is not inferior to him, even slightly higher. It is certain that one can enter an uninhabited realm among ordinary people. Everything seems so unreasonable. Is it that the young man in front of me used to be clumsy? In Dian Wei's heart, various thoughts were swirling and his thoughts gradually became chaotic. Blade Saint accumulates 2 layers, instant force 150 points, Luang's mind once again heard the system broadcast. What's going on? He curled his lips and smiled, are you afraid? Dian Wei exploded instantly. Absolutely impossible. I, Dian Wei, walk in the world without knowing what fear is. Come again. The fighting spirit was completely stirred up. Dian Wei changed his previous mode of retaining combat power and took the initiative to move forward with full force. Close up and engage in close combat using the 2 short halberds in hand. Luong did not retreat but moved forward, took the initiative to bring himself closer. Dian Wei, who was restless, couldn't grasp the other party's intentions. In theory, opponents holding long knives should distance themselves. But what is the reason for the other party to take the initiative to move forward? The puzzled Dian Wei slowed down his movements. Be prepared for unexpected attacks from opponents. The opponent is too strong, making him wary. Luong saw all of Dian Wei's actions and intentions in his eyes. Seize the opportunity of the other party's brief hesitation and quickly retreat. During the journey, a diagonal flick of the blade swept horizontally, causing a loud cry of surprise. That's amazing. The young bandit who supported Luong froze in place. His gaze was filled with admiration and envy. He never expected that Luong would be able to fight alongside the villains who had caused a lot of trouble with Chen Lu, and even have the upper hand. Dian Wei was once again shocked and pale. He clearly felt that his opponent's martial arts had improved again. And it's not a small improvement, it's a huge improvement beyond imagination. Now this knife is even faster and more ruthless than the previous move. Dang! Reluctantly defending, Dian Wei was sweating profusely. The tingling sensation from the tiger's mouth rapidly expanded, causing his entire forearm to tremble. For him, who has always been confident in his military prowess, he felt for the first time what it means to have someone outside the world. Dian Wei's face was filled with solemnity. Master Yen, quickly leave this place. He doesn't know how to explain things quickly. My friend recommended me to take refuge here, and I will take care of you. But at this moment, there is nothing more to do. I'll fight to the death to ensure you leave. Yen Laosan had already been frightened and stood still, unable to speak. He couldn't imagine that there was such a powerful young man hidden in the knockoff. Even the villain Dian Wei, who caused a great disturbance to Chen Lu, couldn't cope. Moreover, it seems that Dian Wei is no match at all. How powerful is this young man? Don't hesitate. Hurry up. Dian Wei didn't hear the footsteps and shouted loudly. But his gaze remained fixed on Luong, afraid to deviate from any point. Blade Saint accumulates 3 layers, instant force 200 points, trigger the 3rd layer of Saber Saint for the first time to obtain rewards. Martial Saint Guan Gong's lifelong Saber Essence. Upon hearing the sound of the system broadcast, Luang's mind suddenly flooded with a variety of knife techniques. Various exquisite knife techniques, routines, and practical combat experiences seemed to blend with his body. Chapter 4. 1-1, Wu gathering at Liangshan, defending the way for heaven. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Schwa. Luong swung his big knife past. Dian Wei did not feel any pain. This. Why is this? Dian Wei, who opened his eyes and looked around, naturally knew that Luong had not killed anyone in pain. Looking around, he found his hair scattered all over the ground. Luong stood with his sword and said, "Cut your hair to replace the head. You have paid off that guy's love and no longer owe each other. As for why I didn't kill you." He slightly lengthened his tone to attract the attention of everyone in the knockoff. Luong raised his volume and said, "As a hero, one should act on behalf of the heavens to eliminate violence and ensure good governance. Is it a heroic act to die here for a miscellaneous person?" Dian Wei lowered his head, feeling extremely ashamed. To uphold justice for the heavens, to eliminate violence and ensure peace. The young bandit who supported Luong the most lowered his head and pondered. The originally confused gaze suddenly brightened. The bandits were infected with Luang's words and their blood boiled. Acting on behalf of the heavens, eliminating violence and ensuring peace. I don't know who shouted in the crowd, but everyone else responded instantly. The mountain bandits raised their arms and shouted loudly. For a moment, the momentum surged, and the entire Shanzhai seemed to be trembling. Yen Laosan, who sat paralyzed on the ground and couldn't stand up, was extremely frightened. As the village leader, he had never seen such a majestic mountain bandit before. These refugees follow that young man, how can they be so spirited? It doesn't make sense. He secretly crawled towards the distance while no one was paying attention. I'm risking my life to leave. Bang! Yen Laosan, who was struggling to crawl, was intercepted by a knife handle inserted into the ground in front of him. Gulu. After swallowing a mouthful of saliva with difficulty, he found the handle of the knife easily piercing into the bluestone slab. Like inserting tofu, there is no difficulty at all. You should thank Dian Wei for pleading, Luang said from a high position, looking down like watching ants. Otherwise, this just poke would have landed on your head. Yen Laosen quickly turned from crawling to kneeling and kowtowed vigorously, thank you for not killing the hero. Luang withdrew his sword and said calmly, but even though death is a crime, it is difficult to escape. In Yen Laosan's inexplicable gaze, he ordered, someone. Drag it down and fight half to death, hang it on the gate of the mountain fortress to show off. Who? A group of mountain bandits swarmed in. Surrounded by Yen Laosan, his fists and feet fell like a rainstorm. Damn it, let you bully me before. Master Lu, lead us to turn over and kill you scumbags. After a series of punches and kicks, Yen Laosan was already on the brink of death. The bandits carried the blood-covered, immature old village leader and, following Lu Eng's orders, carried him to the gate of the village and hung him up high. The mountain bandits, who had suffered all the bullying, felt the exhilarating revenge for the first time. One by one, they returned to the mountain stronghold with their heads and chests high, and everyone's gaze towards Luang became different. Luang is the pillar of their hearts. The battle is over, the number of layers of the Blade Saint disappears, and immediate force points are 50. The system announcement sounded in Lu Eng's mind, and he suddenly felt his big knife sink in his hand. He turned to ask the young mountain bandit beside him, brother, what is your surname? May I have the surname Su Mingshu? The young mountain bandit saluted and respectfully replied. Originally named Su Fu, with the character Yuan Ji, he was from Yingchuan, Yuzhou. Because a friend was arrested for revenge, he was later rescued by a friend and changed his name to take refuge in this mountain stronghold. Fortunately, a hero took action to punish the malicious village leader. Only then can I avoid bullying in the future. Thank you very much for your help. The other bandits followed suit, clasping their fists and bowing together, imitating Su Shu's graceful demeanor and shouting, thank you very much for your help. Su Fu. Su Shu. Luang looked up and down at the young man in front of him. Su Shu, who had not gone south to seek refuge in Jingzhou, still looked like a young swordsman. Less scholarly, but more chivalrous and righteous. Su Shu noticed a look of appreciation in Lu Eng's eyes as he looked up and down. He took the initiative to speak up. The villain is willing to follow the hero. The other bandits responded, we are willing to follow the heroes. Luang retorted, I am a mountain bandit. Would you like to continue to be a bandit? Su Shu replied solemnly, be considerate of others and respond to every call. Heroes will never be objects of the pool in the future. Throughout history, those who can move people's hearts have achieved success. The villain is willing to follow the hero, uphold justice for the heavens, and eliminate violence and ensure peace. A speech caught Dian Wei's ear and stirred up waves in his heart. The force is so powerful that it is unimaginable, and it can lead people's hearts to be extremely obedient. Such a person has no future, what kind of person has it? Dian Wei stood up and approached Luang, kneeling on one knee. The hero spared my life, and from then on my life will be that of a hero. If you don't mind, please follow me. Leading a horse to fall and pedal, never regretting. An extremely sincere and hopeful expression appeared on Dian Wei's face. Luang threw a knife and bent down solemnly to help. Brother Dian has exceptional martial arts skills and unparalleled loyalty. In the future, we will not talk about following each other, but only about brothers. He turned his head to look at Su Shu and said, Yuan Ji is no exception. Su Shu's heart was greatly moved. He felt the courtesy in Lu Eng's sincere words. This is a respect that I have never received as a child of a humble family elsewhere. Big brother, Su Shu solemnly shouted. Dian Wei hesitated no longer and followed closely behind, bowing his hand and calling out, "Big brother, please accept my bow." Lu Wang immediately bent over and helped him up, saying, "Today, my 3 brothers are gathering at this village in Liangshan. It is actually fate's will. In the future, we will uphold our original intention of doing things for the sake of heaven. Strike down landlords, kill dog officials, and bring justice to the world." Dian Wei and Su Shu exchanged a glance and saw the excitement on each other's faces. Eliminate all injustice in the world. The 2 of them took the lead in waving their arms and shouting loudly. 100 or so mountain bandits shouted loudly. "Big brother, how will these people be dealt with?" Dian Wei asked, pointing to the trembling confidant of the 20 or so former village leaders. Su Shu arched his hand and suggested, "Big brother, the mountain stronghold is currently short of people. Why not leave them behind to avoid damaging their strength?" "No way," Lu Wang shook his head. "These 20 or so people are all confidants of the former village leader. Most of them are people who deceive and exploit others. Stay and don't have the same heart as me." Su Shu said, "So let them go." Lu Wang shook his head again and said, "It's equally impossible. We destroy their nourishing lives, and we will surely harbor resentment in our hearts. Although it appears weak on the surface now, there will inevitably be retaliation in the future." He squinted his eyes, the cold light overflowed, and said decisively, "Kill them all. Leave no one behind." This. Su Shu's face was full of shock. More than 20 people were all killed, isn't it a bit cruel? Dian Wei shook his head and said, "Brother, you don't understand that. Big brother is right. These people should be killed. A person with a soft heart will be harmed by villains. When you should be ruthless, you should be ruthless." Dian Wei's liking for Lu Wang increased by 2 points. Being decisive and decisive in his actions, these 2 impressions formed in his heart. Lu Wang said solemnly, "Yuan Ji, those who want to achieve success must avoid the kindness of women." He pointed at the confidant of the village leader whose fate had already been determined. The bandits picked up their weapons and rushed forward in unison. The screams accompanied the head to the ground. More than 20 intimate corpses were separated. Su Shuqing earnestly said, "The village leader is a talented person, and I will teach you." Chapter 5 Su Shu. A Complaint Conference. Lu Zhai Zhu Yu Ren. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Under Lu Ang's command, the bandits disposed of their trusted corpses. Burning and burying. Everything is done in an orderly manner. Why do we have to put in a lot of effort to burn it down? Su Shu asked in confusion. Isn't it enough to just bury it? Dian Wei was equally puzzled. No way, Lu Wang explained to the 2 while inspecting the burial work of the mountain bandits. Improper handling of corpses can lead to epidemics. Burying without burning may damage the water source. It will also cause serious consequences. Plague. Su Shu exclaimed in surprise. Dian Wei's expression was also surprised. This word has too much power for them. Every time a plague occurs, the entire village is filled with dead people. Many villages have disappeared from the world due to the epidemic. People turn pale when talking about epidemics. Su Shudian and Wei exchanged a glance and exclaimed together, "Big brother knows so much. Everything is done, and the night is deep." Lu Wang, who returned to the Shanzhai, waved his hand and said, "Dinner. This limited edition meal tonight. I can't eat too much at the moment." In the puzzled gaze of the bandits, he explained. "You haven't had a full meal for a long time, and your spleen and stomach can't bear it. Eating too much can easily lead to being stretched to death. Don't worry, I, Lu Chongwu, will do what I say. Starting from tomorrow, I'll give you 3 full meals a day." Silence. The mountain bandits looked at each other. After a brief silence, chaotic discussions erupted. What? 3 meals a day or a full meal? What kind of treatment is that? I'm afraid even the landlord's foolish son just lives like this. The village leader is mighty. I will always support the village leader. His words made the 100 or so bandits burst into cheers. The entire Shanzhai is bustling with activity. Su Shu couldn't help but sigh as he looked at the excited mountain bandits. Sigh. The world has no right path, leaving people with no land to grow and no food to eat. If possible, who would like to become a bandit? Dian Wei angrily said, isn't it all the evil done by those damn aristocratic families and officials? The land was annexed by them. Ordinary people can't survive. Luong patted Su Shu's shoulder and said, that's why we have to act on behalf of heaven and rob the rich to help the poor. Su Shu nodded vigorously, his clenched fist filled with anticipation. Under Lu Ang's command, the bandits buried their pots and cooked rice. They have never been as happy as they are today. Even though the night is deep, it still cannot hinder the excitement of the bandits. Work hard one by one. In the darkness, the smoke from the kitchen was curling up. The bandits sat around the bonfires, their eyes filled with anticipation for the future. Eating a meal, although controlled by Luong to 7% full. But the bandits were extremely satisfied. Under Lu Ang's leadership, they will not be bullied for no reason. I won't be afraid anymore. I can still have enough food in the future. It's simply the life they've been dreaming of. Meeting. With a loud cry from Luong, more than 100 mountain bandits were gathered together by Dian Wei and Su Shu. Everyone sat in front of the fire in Nuoda, listening to Lu Ang's introduction. A grievance meeting. Su Shui stood in the front row. This is the first time he has heard of such a thing. What's the use of this? He couldn't figure out why the village leader Luong was doing this in the middle of the night, as he lowered his head and pondered. Dian Wei is not sure why. As a strong person, he cannot understand the pain and helplessness of being bullied by the weak. I'll be the first to come. Middle-aged people with courage in the crowd responded first. Luong nodded to signal, and the middle-aged man spoke up. I am from Yangping County, Dongjun, Yenzhou. The damn landlord Xiao Pipi is the younger brother of the Dongjun prefect Xiao Mao. I originally had a few acres of thin farmland, but it was forcibly taken and taken away by that servant. It caused my family to perish. The middle-aged man's voice gradually choked up, with a runny nose and tears. Poor my daughter, she was snatched away by that guy. I still don't know if she's alive or dead. Sob. The choking voice turned into tears, making the village as silent as death. Goddamn dog landlord. Dian Wei's anger should not be drunk. Stomped on the ground with a loud bang. I can't stand those who bully the weak the most in my life. When there's a chance to go down the mountain, I'll take that guy's head. Su Shu sighed and shook his head, alas. He could imagine what kind of humiliation this middle-aged man's daughter would suffer at the landlord's house. If you have a stronger temperament, you may lose your life. Luong comforted and said, don't cry, tears are useless. Starting from tomorrow, practice your martial arts hard and have you personally chop off the landlord's dog head when you go down the mountain. The middle-aged man wiped away his tears and nodded vigorously. I listen to the village leader. In the future, my life will belong to the village leader. Follow the village leader to fight against the landlord and kill the dog official. Acting on behalf of the heavens, eliminating violence and ensuring peace. The middle-aged man shouted out the slogan proposed by Luong, and the other mountain bandits responded instantly. Do justice for the heavens. Eliminate violence and ensure good governance. About 100 people were shouting loudly at the top of their throats. The high-pitched voice swept across the entire mountain fortress. Su Shu turned around to look around, and the bandits had lost their numbness from before. Replace with a resolute expression on your face. Such a huge transformation made him marvel at Lu Ang's ability to mobilize people's hearts. The skills of the village leader in guarding people have reached the pinnacle. Su Shu sighed softly. The appeal meeting continued under the leadership of Luan. After someone started, others responded one after another. Most of the people in the Shanzhai are refugees who cannot survive and have no choice but to climb Liangshan. Various painful past experiences are filled with everyone's emotions in the narratives of the bandits. There is no worst, only worse. The tragic experiences of the bandits have left Luang, who is accustomed to dog-blood TV dramas, deeply saddened and indignant. Dian Wei and Su Shu were already furious. The two people, who were jealous of evil as if they were enemies, wished they could rush down the mountain overnight and chop down all the landlords and aristocratic families that the bandits claimed to be wealthy and inhumane, and send them to the underworld. Chapter 6. Physical Fitness. Military Discipline. Rank. 3-3 System. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After the complaint meeting, Luang returned to the original room of the village leader. Lying down on a dilapidated wooden bed, I opened the system in my mind. Several messages popped up. Control the village, become the village leader, initial mission successful, reward. 10,000 construction points. He opened them all in the system and various skills came into view. After browsing, Luang chose the skill he needed the most at the moment. New recruit training method, including basic military discipline training, physical fitness training methods, and a 3.3 system tactics, consuming 10,000 system points. He redeemed skills. All kinds of information flooded into my mind, as if I had trained countless new recruits, and my experience was extremely advanced. Integrating the trivial historical knowledge in his mind, Luang determined the specific location of the mountain fortress. Liangshan, originally named Liangshan, was named after the nearby Liangyi during the spring and autumn period. Later generations became famous worldwide for their novel water margin. The Liangshan area was under the jurisdiction of Yanzhou during the Eastern Han Dynasty. To the east is Qinlu, to the south is Puyang, to the west is Xiaopei, and to the north is Jiaojun. There are numerous waterways and dense mountains and forests. The terrain is complex, easy to defend but difficult to attack. Especially suitable for rooting here and growing stronger. Luang pondered the planned development path and gradually fell asleep. Early in the morning. The bandits take the initiative to get up and exercise. They, who have experienced the vicissitudes of the world, are well aware that there are no idle people raised in the Shanzhai. Dian Wei walked out of the wooden house and saw the bandits exercising separately, feeling slightly relieved. Come on, I'll teach you. He picked up a wooden stick and went to teach basic stick techniques among the mountain bandits. The bandits were thrilled. They know very well about Dian Wei's strength. Learning a few moves from him can definitely make martial arts progress by leaps and bounds. Su Shu also joined the ranks of learning. He, who walks in the martial arts world, has ordinary martial arts skills. He knows his ability is not enough and wants to follow Dian Wei to make up for it. Under the leadership of Dian Wei, the entire mountain fortress was thriving. The mountain bandits are practicing with a lively atmosphere. Luang lazily walked out of the largest wooden house. Village leader. Dian Wei stopped first and took the initiative to bow his hand as a gift. Master of the stronghold. 100 or so mountain bandits also stopped to salute. Starting official training today. Lu Ang's resounding voice echoed in the knockoff. Everyone should hold their heads high and show their most powerful side as much as possible. What is the most important thing for a strong body? His questions rang out, and the bandits looked at each other. Dian Wei replied, when exercising with a stone mill, the heavier you lift, the stronger your body will be. As he spoke, he straightened his chest and showed off his proud muscles. Su Shu pondered but remained silent. He felt that Lu Ang's words were not so simple. Over 100 mountain bandits enthusiastically spoke up. But no answer was appreciated. It's all wrong. Luong said after negating. Man is iron and rice is steel. If you want to be strong, the most important thing is to keep up with your diet. The first thing to do during training is to have dinner. The bandits immediately cheered and jumped. Although Luang's words were brief, they had extraordinary significance for them. Dian Wei and Su Shu looked at the excited mountain bandits and marveled even more at Luang's infectious power. Under Luang's command, the bandits buried pots to make rice. Open up and eat. Luang walked among the mountain bandits, comforting and encouraging everyone. Su Shu followed by, remembering every move of Luang in his heart. He saw the emotional changes on the faces of the bandits in his eyes. Some people are born leaders. He sighed in his heart. Many people can't learn things in their lifetime, but some come up with them effortlessly. This kind of person is a legendary genius. After a meal, the bandits were full of energy and full of energy. My eyes are no longer numb from yesterday, full of brilliance and agility. This significant change once again greatly impressed Su Shu. Now start dividing classes. Luang stood in front of the crowd and loudly ordered. He asked Dian Wei and Su Shu to divide the mountain bandits into 9 groups. Form 9 teams based on physical fitness. The remaining 20 or so older people formed a cooking and guard team. More responsible for logistics work. Luang spoke in front of the bandits gathered in groups. Those who have achieved outstanding training results in the next few days will be elected as class monitor and deputy class monitor. As soon as the words were spoken, the bandits exerted all their strength and everyone wanted to strive to become the class monitor. Su Shu nodded secretly. In just one sentence, everyone's motivation is mobilized. The village leader really knows this way. Announce military discipline now. Luang read out the rules loudly. The mountain bandits keep it in mind. Anyone who violates military discipline shall be punished according to the law. Luangshan preached. In the future, this Shanzhai will be managed by law. Everyone does things according to the law. Reward the winners and punish the violators. No matter who it is, there is no exception. Su Shu sighed and said, our Shanzhai is so ordered and prohibited, with clear organization. It's difficult to think strongly about it. Compared to other bandits, it's like the bright moon shining on fireflies. Dian Weizan said together, yes. I haven't seen it before, which mountain village is still divided into classes. Isn't it just a swarm of people rushing up when something happens? The village leader is more legitimate than the county garrison. Luang continued to explain the San system to the bandits. 3 people form a group, with 2 people in front and 1 person in the back. It is divided into attack, cover, and support, each performing their own duties, and there are also transitions. 3 groups form 1 class, 3 classes form 1 row, and 3 rows form 1 company. Mutual cover and charge, advance layer by layer, and fully unleash our combat power. Su Shu heard staring from the side. This is a formation. The secret of a wealthy family not leaking out. With such a formation, 1 army can defeat 3 armies. Luang explained while demonstrating the 3-3-3 system with Dian Wei and Su Shu. The bandits look and remember with their hearts, and no one wants to fall behind others. Accompanied by Luang's command, each group conducted a drill. The square in the Shanzhai is filled with the cries of bandits performing martial arts. The military training of the county town is not as good as that of the village leader. Dian Wei, who had seen the imperial army, sighed. The soldiers of my fortress will surely startle the world. Luang called out to Dian Wei and said, from today on, you will be the platoon leader of the knockoff army. Commander-in-chief, 3 rows of soldiers. Dian Wei clasped his fists and saluted, and Hong Liang replied, thank you for valuing the village leader. I will definitely serve my life to the death. Old Wang stands out. Lu Wang looked at the middle-aged man who was the first to speak at the previous grievance meeting. Do you know Jiawu Fort? Old Wang was so excited that he stuttered and said, Village. Lord of the village, I remember turning into ash. Su Shu did not hesitate to express his hidden worries. Big brother, the fortresses of local masters originate from the cities outside the Great Wall. Build a dock on flat ground, surrounded by a wall, and open doors in front and back. There are watchtowers in the dock and corner towers in all four corners. Like a small city, easy to defend but difficult to attack, I'm afraid. Dian Wei frowned and was equally worried. Under the gaze of everyone, Lu Wang confidently smiled and said, no matter how strong the fortress is, it will be breached from within. His gaze turned to Dian Wei and he said, Brother Dian, have you ever heard of the infernal affairs? Yangping County, Dongjun, Yenzhou. Under the care of the prefect of Dongjun, Xiao Mao, the Qiao family roams freely in the fish and meat village of Yangping County. Although someone sued the officials, the county magistrate was extremely protective. Make the Bridge family even more reckless. Several Bridge families have acquired over 10,000 acres of land in Yangping County. During the period of famine, they hoarded grain and sold it at high prices, resulting in abundant profits. At the entrance of the largest fortress outside Yangping County, the landlord Bridge is accompanied by a group of attendants waiting for distinguished guests. Big brother, is it worth entertaining Bao Xian? The younger brother of the Bridge family complained on the side. Although he is under the command of a general, he is too far away from us. No matter how good the hospitality is, we can't rely on it. Xiaoan didn't turn back and scolded loudly, short-sightedness. Looking towards the newly emerged team in the distance of the wilderness, he scolded. Don't you just worry about spending money and food. How much food can we use when a team of hundreds of people passes by? General, he is conscribing at this moment, which naturally has great use. We stand in line, and in the future, Empress He's legitimate son will succeed to the throne. We can also make some contributions. Remember, money and food are not earned by one person. Xiaoan turned around and asked seriously, do you understand? Discovering that his younger brother was still indignant, he secretly shook his head. Some people are ultimately short-sighted. The money of ordinary people with flat heads can be plundered to the death. But it cannot fall into their hands alone. Rain and dew are evenly distributed, and only by paying tribute at high prices can they stand more steadily. Only then can those mud legs be squeezed dry more recklessly. Xiaoan is well versed in this path. Chapter 8. The Hidden Bridge at Jiawu Fortress, Dian Wei pulls down the hanging willows. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Captain Cavalry. A fast horse galloped to Bao Xian to report. The person ahead is the Qiaomao tribe, the governor of Dongjun. Banquet to receive the captain and reward the soldiers. Bao Xian, who was riding on a high-headed horse, smiled and said, Wenza, you and I are both from Mount Taishan County. I'm just a fellow villager, there's no need to be seen outside like this. You can simply call me, my table characters. No way, Eugene shook his head and replied solemnly. During the march, there is a distinction between superiority and inferiority, so we must not disturb the rules and regulations, causing damage to the dignity of the cavalry captain. It's not too late for me to privately entertain the cavalry captain and then talk about the friendship with my fellow villagers. Bao Xian added another satisfaction to his face. At the order of General He Jin, he returned to Mount Taishan to recruit soldiers. I didn't expect to recruit a talent like Eugene who is good at commanding troops. If he had obtained his left and right arms, Bao Xian was very happy at that time. After spending some time together, he found that Eugene had a moderate approach and was strict with himself, which made him more optimistic and trusting. Everyone listen. Bao Xinqi roared and issued orders on his horse. Accelerate the marching speed and rush to the front fortress. Someone will reward the army tonight. 800 soldiers shouted loudly. The opportunity to eat tycoons is extremely rare. Tonight, I will definitely shake off my cheeks and eat to death. The team's marching speed soared, pulling up a trail of smoke and dust on the wilderness. But under the control of prohibition, the movement was moderate and never chaotic. Bao Xian looked at the busy figure of Eugene and felt even more joyful in his heart. Congratulations to Cavalry Captain Bao. Xiaowen led a group of people to quickly meet from the entrance of the village. Bao Xian dismounted from his horse, clasped his fists and saluted. I've been looking up to the bridge officer for a long time, and today I saw the fruit very well. Xiaowen is very happy. The smile on the other person's face and the attitude of speaking represent empathy. This is exactly what he wants. Captain Bao was exhausted all the way. Quickly enter the fortress to rest. Xiaowen stepped aside from the main road and respectfully guided the way. I have ordered someone to prepare the food and drink, and today I will clean up the dust for Captain Bao. Other soldiers went to settle down in the fortress, where they had everything from tents, wine, and food. The captain recruited soldiers to ensure the safety of the country, and we had no choice but to reward the soldiers with this. Make every effort to contribute to the court and society. As he spoke, he winked at the old butler beside him. The old butler quickly delivered a delicate small wooden box. Bao Xian bowed his hand and said, "Thank you, Mr. Chiao." Then, without concealing it, he accepted the other person's gift directly. The two of them looked at each other with a smile, and the guests and hosts were happy. Everything is in silence. The group entered the fortress under the guidance of Xiaowen. Before entering the lobby, Bao Xian turned around and gave instructions. One then settled down the soldiers and quickly came to the banquet. No. Eugene nodded in response and then led the team away. Xiaowen saw it in his eyes, and after some questioning, he learned that the person was a good general recruited by Bao Xian. Captain Bao is truly the Bolia of the 1,000-mile horses. After some flattery, Xiaowen patted Bao Xian very comfortably. The two quickly got to know each other. Inside the fortress, there is a dark and secluded corner. A big man hurriedly arrived, exploring everywhere without anyone following him, and flashed in. Captain Dian. Ah no, now it's Brother Lejin. The young man dressed in rags stood at attention and saluted. Dian Wei lowered his voice and quickly said, "Quickly spread the new information about the official army's arrival. Let the two class brothers who are lurking with the refugees into the fortress remain silent for the time being. Wait for the news from the village leader to be returned before making any plans." After quickly giving orders, Dian Wei dodged and left. As soon as I left the corner, I met a nearby villager waving and shouting. "Guard Lo, my lord has sent you to showcase your martial arts skills." Dian Wei hurriedly ran over and said, "I'm coming." The reception hall of Wubao. Xiaowen brought several tribal people to entertain Bao Xian and Eugene. After 3 rounds of wine and 5 flavors of food, Xiaowen said, "Our village has recruited a new guard, and their martial arts skills are really good. I ordered someone to summon him to perform martial arts for the captain to cheer him up." Oh. Bao Xian pretended to be interested as he put down the wine cup. Then I need to have a good viewing. He was filled with thoughts in his heart. No matter how strong, can it surpass Eugene beside him? Moreover, anyone in the martial arts world who has some skills doesn't want to sacrifice their lives for the court. How could he devote himself to being a guard inside the fortress with people? It's just a shrimp soldier and crab general. Under the leadership of Zhuang Ding, Dian Wei strode into the lobby. Sitting upright, Eugene corrected his expression a bit and carefully looked up and down. Bao Xian changed his mind slightly and exclaimed, with such a strong physique, his martial arts skills should not be inferior. Xiaowen was very proud and waved his hand, saying, "If you don't report your family yet, then show a few masters your unique skills. No. Dian Wei bowed his hand and said in a rough voice, I am happy to make progress, with the courtesy name Wenxian. I am from Weigua County. Looking around the lobby, Dian Wei suggested, it's not easy to showcase in this room. It's better to go to the courtyard outside the hall. That's great. Bao Xian stood up voluntarily, already full of food and drink, wanting to see the abilities of the big man in front of him. Xiaowen led the way to lead everyone to the courtyard. Dian Wei strode towards the sturdy willow trees in the courtyard. Bend down and hold on to the tree trunk with both hands. What is this for? Bao Xian's face was puzzled. Bridge peace of mind makes me unhappy. Let you show off your martial arts skills, but you black servant will go and hug the tree. Can he hold a flower in his mother's arms? Eugene frowned. With some martial arts skills, he could see that what the great Han wanted to do was not as simple as holding a tree. Up up up. Dian Wei roared 3 times and immediately exerted his strength. The sturdy willow tree was pulled out of the ground under his immense power. The roots of the tree lifted up the surrounding soil, and a wide and deep pit appeared on the ground. Dian Wei forcefully lifted the large willow tree above his head. Rotating like a dance stick, the soil scattered and fell. How could there be such a divine power in the world? Bao Xian was so shocked that his mouth couldn't close. This. Fingers trembled as he pointed towards the big man carrying a thick willow tree, who chattered for a long time without being able to say a whole sentence. Pull out the hanging willows. Eugene murmured silently. A blazing heat appeared in the eyes. Chapter 9. Some people are not afraid of breaking 800 or 100,000, You are listening at novelfull.audio. Good. Xiao En's face instantly turned cloudy and sunny. The new guard has given him face. Such a performance deserves a reward. Xiao En blushed and extended a finger, reward 1,000 yuan, upgrade to the rank of guard commander. Dian Wei bowed his hand as a gift, and Guzhuo was excited. Thank you, Mr. Bridge. In the future, I will fight to the death. Xiaowen was even happier and added 1,000 extra tips on the spot. The other guards heard the news and were envious and jealous. But their amazing performance in pulling down willows made them want to hate but dare not. Dian Wei was seated at the strong request of Bao Xian. Before descending the mountain, Dian Wei had undergone Luang's acting training and had fully integrated into his undercover identity. He, who is extremely good at drinking, frequently invites wine. Bao Xian greatly appreciated his bold demeanor. Xiaowen looked in his eyes and was delighted in his heart. It was an unexpected joy to have such a powerful guardian commander. Dian Wei held the wine jar and drank it everywhere he met people. Bao Xian drank until his tongue rolled up. You're a great Han Jin. Jin can drink. Paz. Bao Xian, who could no longer hold on, collapsed on the table and fell asleep soundly. Dian Wei turned his head to look at Xiaowen, but did not see the figure on the main seat. After being instructed by servants, it was only then that Xiaowen had slipped under the table. Drunk and unconscious. Come on, brother let's keep drinking. Dian Wei walked towards the figure sitting firmly on the last chair in the room. No, Eugene waved his hand and refused. The cavalry captain is drunk, and I need to go to the soldier's place to guard the night, said his face, still sober. If I meet the Wenxian brothers again in the future, I will be the host. We won't go back until we're drunk. Dian Wei held on to the wine jar without mercy. Eugene repeatedly refused, we are marching outside and cannot accompany you anymore. Dian Wei rebuked, you have just been recruited and have not yet been appointed by the court. How can you claim to be an official? This. Eugene hesitated slightly. Bang. The sound of the wine jar slamming fiercely on the table was loud, and Dian Wei's face turned angry. If you don't have a good drink today, you won't be able to leave. Under both soft and hard measures, there is a dilemma of being in a dilemma between being banned. Dian Wei's words changed and he raised 3 fingers, saying, "It's not difficult for you, just 3 cups. After drinking, I'll leave." Eugene reluctantly agreed. 3 cups is not a problem. Bang, bang, bang. Dian Wei picked up 3 large sea bowls and smashed them in front of Jean. "Brother Lo, didn't you say 3 cups? Why?" Before he could finish speaking, Eugene's words were interrupted by Dian Wei raising his hand. "When we wander the rivers and lakes, everything can make a cup." Dian Wei said boldly, "Since we are brothers, don't worry about these small things." In his words, he skillfully poured 3 large bowls, and Dian Wei held the wine jar, refusing to give Yuban a chance to speak. "I accompany you with this jar of wine. Let's do it first." As soon as he finished speaking, he lifted the wine jar and poured it. The sound of swallowing echoed in the lobby. "Ah!" Eugene had no choice but to grit his head and bring a bowl to drink. Affection is truly difficult to resist. After 2 bowls of food, he had already a hint of excitement in his eyes. Eugene shook his head vigorously, trying to regain consciousness, but feeling somewhat powerless. Dian Wei roared roughly, "If you can't drink, just wear a skirt and dance." "Who said they can't drink?" Eugene looked up and drank the last bowl with difficulty. Suddenly, the head was heavy and the feet were light, and he stumbled and almost fell to the ground. Watching Eugene being taken away by 2 servants, Dian Wei chuckled and thought to himself. The combination of hard and soft techniques and provocation taught by the elder brother is really effective. When I return to the mountain stronghold this time, I will definitely learn more. Be a rough accountant. Hiccup. With a hiccup, Dian Wei walked out of the lobby in a swaying manner. "When the evening breeze blows, I wake up half drunk. Hurry up and search for the ambush personnel responsible for communication." Upon learning that Lu Eng's plan remained unchanged, Dian Wei was extremely excited. Wilderness. In a certain forest of trees. Su Shu lowered his voice and advised, "Big brother, there is an official army stationed in the fortress. Let's consider it in the long run." Lu Wang comforted and said, "Don't worry, the newly recruited soldiers have not undergone systematic training and are no different from bandits." Su Shu advised again, "There are as many as 800 officials in the army, and we are less than 100. How can we win with such a large difference in quantity?" Lu Wang said again, "There are 800 and 100,000 people who have not shown any fear. In the end, they defeated the enemy and won the title of, 'Children are famous for not crying at night.' The brave win when meeting on a narrow path. No need to say more." Lu Wang turned around and faced his subordinates in the forest, speaking frankly. "The grain and grass in the Shanzhai are almost bottoming out." At the beginning of the speech, Su Shu was scared to death. Is this not a howling sound? The hand involuntarily touches the handle of the knife, always ready to pull out the knife to deal with major changes. But Su Shu found that the soldiers of Liangshan had no complaints. Lu Wang continued, "We are in ambush and should not make any noise. Tell me in a low voice that you want to follow me to kill the landlord and grab food to eat. Or go back to the mountain stronghold and starve, the thug stiff and waiting for death." His voice was not loud, but it penetrated into everyone's ears. The soldiers of Liangshan replied without even thinking, using the lightest yet most expressive language. "Kill the landlord. Grab food." The deliberately suppressed soft voices converged into a band, creating a slight ripple in the forest. But Su Shu could truly feel the burning emotions in everyone's heart. How could this be so? He couldn't figure it out as he shook his head repeatedly. Lu Wang patted Su Shu's shoulder and said, "Having seen happiness in the light, I never want to return to the pain of darkness. Although it may come at the cost of one's life." Su Shu lowered his head and murmured repeatedly, savoring the meaning behind it. The more you think, the more profound you feel. The gap between people is much larger than imagined. Su Shu shook his head and sighed. Follow the plan, Luong ordered everyone to take immediate action. According to the previously arranged plan, enter the combat positions of each team. The full moon rises and the night deepens. The Jiawu fortress, located in the plain farmland, enters a peaceful state. 800 new recruits ate until their stomachs were full, and each person even mixed in some drinks. This made them, who had been marching for several days, sleep until the sky was dark and snore everywhere. Chapter 10. When the enemy is stationed and harassing us, we fight. When the enemy is tired, and when the enemy is chaotic, we charge forward. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Quack. Quack. The sleeping new recruit was awakened by the sound coming from outside the tent. Damn it! Where did the toads come from in the middle of the night? More and more people are waking up, and more complaints are waking up more people. Under the chain reaction, even the person who slept the most soundly in the tent was awakened. Don't make such a fuss. Are you still asleep? In a crowd of tents, the new recruits were making a fuss. Not long after being recruited, the new recruits are still not very familiar with each other. Because a sudden situation triggers conflicts, someone will take action. After several rounds of competition, some won while others surrendered. The winner lies back, while the loser is sent out to catch a toad. The officers and soldiers moved and alarmed the servants and guards in the fortress. The fortress with over 1,000 people appears slightly chaotic. Under the command of the officers and soldiers, the serfs were unwilling to leave the castle. Catching toads under the moonlight. The serfs complained incessantly. Watching damn bastards devour us while we drink rice soup, and now we have to be instructed by them, what a godsend. Whether they are officers and soldiers or Beijing soldiers recruited by the general, we can't afford to provoke them. The serfs changed their way of speaking and cursed the incessant clamoring toads. Damn the toad, screams so loudly at night. After a lot of busyness, I finally got rid of the wild toads that were barking wildly. Although the serfs couldn't figure out what was going on, they didn't think much. Talking about many strange things about the passing years, I yawned and returned to the fortress to continue sleeping. There is still a lot of farm work to do tomorrow. How can you have strength if you can't sleep well? In the forest far from Wubao, Su Shu, who was ambushed, observed the situation through the bushes. He sighed and said, "The method that Big Brother told me is really useful." The monitor of Class 3 on the side exclaimed repeatedly, "It's not like that." The Sichuan pepper at the bottom of the box was dug up from the counterfeit warehouse, which nobody wanted to eat. 2 pills make people's lips tingle. Such waste was used by the village leader for warfare. The leader of the village is really turning stones into gold. Other soldiers were eager to sigh. Su Shu, who was leading the ambush, ordered, "Wait for 2 incense sticks of time, let's have another round." The soldiers were excited and waited in secret. All night long, frogs and toads suffered. Caught stuffed with 2 Sichuan peppers, he could only howl desperately. The continuous sound swept through the fortress from all directions. After 3 consecutive rounds, the people inside the fortress flipped their horses. Except for the landlords and high-ranking officials of the fortress who were drunk and sleeping soundly, everyone else suffered unbearably. The new recruits are frying the pan, and the camp is in chaos. New recruits who can't sleep well are more angry, and after their emotions escalate, they have more conflicts. A word of disagreement leads to fists facing each other. 800 new recruits are in chaos. They, who have not yet formed an architecture, are not convinced by anyone. The winner can only be determined by fists. Within the fortress, both the guards and serfs were overwhelmed. No one dares to control the chaotic fighting of officers and soldiers. That is the object they dare not provoke. The serfs suffered even more. Being awakened and unable to sleep well, I have to endure fatigue and drowsiness and go to the outside of the dock to deal with toads in the darkness. They can't figure out which ghost or god's path they encounter tonight. Too evil. The officials and soldiers are inhumane, and heaven will punish them. Rumors spread among the serfs, and the chatter of gods and gods became increasingly evil. Once again, the toads and frogs outside the fortress were dealt with, and the serfs were extremely exhausted. They returned to the tent and fell asleep. If you don't sleep anymore, it's almost dawn. Wu Bao returns to tranquility. In the wilderness mountains and forests, Su Shu was so excited that his hands trembled. When the enemy is stationed, we disturb them, when the enemy is tired, we fight, when the enemy is chaotic, we charge forward. Reciting the mnemonic taught by Luong in a low voice, he felt it was like divine words. Big Brother's words are deafening and enlightening. It's simply the wisdom of military gods. Unable to hold back the immense excitement in his heart, he issued an order. I'll take a break later. After half an hour of dawn, follow the second-step plan of the village leader. No. The soldiers of Liangshan who were ambushed became even more excited. Looking at the fortress under the moonlight, my gaze was filled with a sharp sense of revenge. Kill me. Lift up the heavenly spirit cover of the dog landlord and grab his mother's food to eat. A loud roar penetrated Yu Jin's ears. He suddenly sat up while sleeping. Listen attentively, it's not a dream. Take a sip of cold air from Eugene. Drinking can cause trouble. Jumping out of the tent, his footsteps were still a bit unsteady. Eugene looked at the towering walls of the fortress under the dim dawnlight, and his heart paused slightly. Fortunately, stationed inside the fortress, the bandits are unable to break through. As the words fell, he noticed the chaotic shouts echoing inside the fortress. Killing. Tens of thousands of bandits have broken through the gate of the fortress, killing anyone they meet. Run quickly. The bandits are going to kill everyone and snatch all the food. Shouts came from all around, making Eugene sweat profusely. The screams of agony grew louder and louder, and the entire fortress gradually fell into chaos. When the morning wind blows, Eugene's heart and mind are cold. He tried his best to calm down. Drawing his sword, he rushed towards the tent where the new recruits were stationed, and Eugene raised his sword and shouted loudly, "Captain Cavalry, obey your orders. There are thieves outside, everyone." He roared and found that the new recruits in the tent were still sleeping soundly. I completely didn't notice the situation outside. How can you sleep like a dead pig? Eugene was greatly angered. Pick up a wooden stick from the side and smash it directly without saying a word. Get up quickly. After a series of chaotic sticks, about 10 new recruits sleeping soundly in the big tent were knocked awake. The new recruits rubbing their eyes were immediately frightened and they heard the shouting of killing outside. Follow me to call others. Yuban rushed out of the tent with people, only to find that more and more people were awakened and rushed out of the tent. The new recruits panicked and looked around in the dimness, then began to charge around aimlessly, and the scene instantly became chaotic. Eugene wielded his sword and beheaded it. A new recruit running nearby fell to the ground in response. Listen to me. An angry roar sounded, accompanied by a corpse lying in a pool of blood. Let the chaotic new recruits stabilize slightly. There must be someone causing chaos inside this fortress. Let's gather quickly. Yu Jian made a decisive decision and said, join forces with the guards of the fortress to protect the cavalry captain and the bridge officer. The new recruits have a backbone, and their panic instantly decreases. Driven by the ban, the gathering began. Although the speed is slow, there is still a preliminary military formation.